So welcome again, once again, to the Power BI data analysis with Power BI, and this will be our cohort 6. So we're so excited, and once again, welcome. For the purpose of this class, we are looking at people who are still very fresh, new beginners, people trying to refresh what they already know. So basically, we're going to be taking it as very detailed as much as we can. We're going to break it down to make sure that you understand the concept, so that at the end of your cohort sections, you should be able to say, oh, I'm no longer a beginner, like I'm at that level where I can produce reports, look at data sets, and come up with insights from it based on the reports that you produced. So without wasting much time, okay, my name is Chioma. I'm a Microsoft certified data analyst, and then basically what I have passion for is data. Anything data just comes to me. I'm ready to talk about it. And that's my humble self there. And for this cohort, we have four mentors that will be taking the sections throughout the cohort. And the first person there is myself. My name, like I said before, is Choma. And then we have Gloria. And then also we have Franca. And then we also have Olive. All these are the mentors that you're going to meet at different weeks that will help us with our sections. And feel free to always drop your questions. Thankfully, we have the WhatsApp chat where you can ask questions, and then hopefully anybody that's available will be able to answer you. So without wasting time, this week, we intend to look at Power BI overview and importing data. And what we're going to be taking a look at is the Power BI parts. When we talk about the Power BI parts, we're referring to the Power BI service, the Power BI mobile app, the Power BI desktop. Now, another part of it is that we're also going to look at how we import data into our Power BI. Data, we have different data sources, so many of them. It could be on database, it could be just a file, it could just be online. There are different sources, but the beautiful thing about Power BI is that we can connect to our different data sources irrespective of where it's located. And that's one good thing, one flexibility that Power BI has over some of the softwares that we already have in the market. Another thing we're going to look at is the storage modes. The storage modes, it has to do with the way we store the data that we use to analyze, right? We're going to be looking at the import, the direct query, as well as the hybrid. And before we conclude today, we're going to do like an introduction to Power Query. So that is all we're going to be looking at today. And hopefully in the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, we should be able to cover that. Okay, what is data analysis? You always hear the concept data analysis, data analytics, and sometimes people kind of get confused, like what's the difference between the two? Data analysis, simply to put, is just having a look at what we already have, like data set that you have that is already existing, and trying to make out sense out of it, right? You have a raw data, maybe has rows and columns, and then they're running thousands. Your duty as a data analyst that is dealing with data analysis is simply to make sense out of that data and bring out insights. Now, data analytics is a broader version of data analysis. So you will find data analysis under analytics. Analytics is kind of a broader version where you have the data analysis part, and then added to it, you have where you have to look at patterns that has happened in the past, and then you're forecasting, you're trying to see what will happen, predict what will happen in the future. And with that, that's when you start to see machine learning come into play, right? And data science, it's also there, but not there. So these are like just a bit of difference just for you to understand. So, and like I said when we started, the course is data analysis with Power BI. So we're going to look at how we can achieve data analysis using Power BI, which is to look at the data sets, try to make sense out of it by bringing out insights from it. Now, if you look at the example that I gave there, it says analyzing sales data to determine why revenue dropped last quarter. So what it means is that this is a company that into sales, and they've done their sales and they've been keeping a record, and they want to look at it and see how well have they performed, right? This is based on the data set that they have. That is what Power BI can help you do, as long as you understand how it works. While when we talk about data analytics, it's when we're looking at this sales record now, but we're now trying to see based on, we've done sales for like say 12, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. Now, can we begin to predict going forward certain things, certain things that we have to do to help us get better, looking at the next level. All right, moving on. I'm supposed to be reading a slideshow, but I just don't really understand what's happening with my system. And it's just low for some reasons, but that's okay. So going on, we want to explore data analytics as a whole, right? We have different types of data analytics. And the good thing about the different types of data analytics is that it's self-explanatory. Yes, this class is recorded. So we have first the descriptive. The descriptive is just like the name, describing, right? That's where it comes from. Descriptive analysis helps answer questions about what has happened based on historical data, right? So we have data now. We are looking at, okay, we made sales last year. What has happened, right? Did we make a lot of sales in January or in December or in August? Or better still, we're looking at it by quarter, or better still, did we drop our sales over years? So let's say in 2023, we had higher sales than 2024, just to understand what has happened. Diagnostics, just like the name, when you go to a doctor, you want to diagnose what is happening to you, right? Now, in diagnostic data analytics, we're trying to see, okay, we made sales last year. First quarter, we were doing well. Second quarter, we were doing well. Third quarter, something happened. We didn't do so well. Why? So you begin to ask the question, why? Why is this so? And then that's when you begin to analyze, okay, what could have happened? You start to look at all those fields, all those indicators, and try to understand what's happening behind the scene. Predictive, you predict. Okay, because we've had data over time, we can say that at some particular time in the year, we have more sales based on certain factors. So based on what we already know, there's a probability that in the next 3-4 years, we can estimate that this is the amount of, still in the spirit of sales, this is the amount of sales we are likely to make for each quarter, right? So if you have like, let me give another use case. Let's say people that work in, what do I use now? Let's even use weather, right? Weather. Sometimes you see that they forecast weather ahead of time, and they tell you, oh, by so time, it's likely to rain this period. And maybe 2 days to the time, this is a long forecast now, because over years, whenever it's this parts of the time, maybe say August, July, just want to have heavy rainfalls, right? Then what will happen is this. We know that by next year, during this period, we might have rainfall. But something might happen along the line, and that's why all this, you don't take away anyone because they all hard work hand in hand. We see situations where most times devices start at a particular time, for some reason it moves further down, and then it happens this year, it happens next year. Oh, before we think that dry season, by January we're in dry season, no rain and everything. But for some reasons, the last 2 years we've had rainfall. Then we want to now start to look at factors that are actually happening there and then predict, oh, it's possible that by next year, we might still have a rainfall in January. So this is where predictive comes into play. Then prescriptive, just like the name, prescribing a drug. So your doctor has diagnosed you. First of all, you've described your issues. Your data kind of understands what you're talking about. He's diagnosed you and he said, okay, you know what? Because you always expose yourself to cold, that's why whenever it gets to this time, you start to get cough, right? Now, what happens? He tells you, oh, you know what? I'm going to give you this prescription. Get it, use it for 2 weeks, and hopefully you'll be fine, right? That's the same thing that prescriptive does. So we've looked at our data, we've tried to understand it, what has happened, and then we've tried to also understand why that happened. Probably we're also giving like an update, kind of giving like a forecast of what is likely to happen, but why this has happened, how do we correct this? That's when you start to prescribe, you start to look at it. Cognitive, which is the final one that I have here, is more like I don't want to use a big word again, but I will use the word lessons learned if you're a project manager. If you're in project management, cognitive is more like, so because certain things has happened when we have a particular scenario, this is how this should be handled. So for some reason, we have like a knowledge base where we keep, when certain things like this happen, this is the way it should be followed. That's what cognitive is all about. So tomorrow, because we already have it in our knowledge base, and we're trying to diagnose something, and we're like, okay, this has happened last 2 years, last 3 years. Let's go look up what happened. How did we address it? And then that's where cognitive comes into play. And then you use it to understand what has happened. Okay, moving on. Having explained that, so now we want to jump into the business for the day, which is Power BI. And Power BI is simply a tool that does the same thing I've been talking about. The difference is that it's a Microsoft tool. So whenever you have Power BI, it's simply a Microsoft data analytic tool that we use to analyze, process our data, and be able to make reports, dashboards from it. So if you look at this, you'll find out that these are the different data sources. You see your database, you see your Facebook, you see SAP, Salesforce, like it just doesn't matter where your data is located. Our Power BI can comfortably pick it up from there and try to bring up reports like this. Now, what are the key features of Microsoft Power BI? First is the fact that it has interactive dashboards and reports. So, you know, the way the world is going, we're trying to make it more better, which is one of the beautiful things that Microsoft Power Platform helped us with, which is to have a situation where you have very low code applications that you can still be able to build things that you can use. And so with our Power BI, you can just drag and drop and then add just visuals that you already have your data sets connected to it, and then you begin to have your reports, right? And the beautiful thing is that not just that you can do that, you can also get information real time. So if I have, let's say we are tracking some metrics, let's even use hospital wait time. So sometimes you go into the hospital, and then there's a queue and you want to know how long it's going to take to get to you, or you even make an order. Let's say you go to a pizza shop or anywhere, and then you want to know how long it takes to get to you. It's you can, or I'm just giving different scenarios, right? The Power BI can help us like give real-time information. You don't have to wait for 2 days, 3 days to go because you know what is happening. So that's one beautiful thing about it. Another beautiful thing about it is that we have over 200 data connectors. So remember the previous screen where I showed us different data sources. I'm going to show you all this today, so don't worry. By the time I show you, you will begin to understand what I'm saying. But then again, it has the ability to connect to different data, whether you have it in Excel, CSV, whichever database that you're using, SQL, PostgreSQL, just name it. Power BI has that flexibility. And then again, we have what we call the live and direct query support. It's just what I talked about, where if I have a data in my database, I use Power BI to connect to it, to speak to it. Whatever update that is going on in that database, Power BI can show us the reports real time. So that's the life that's there. Another beautiful thing is the AI-powered analytics. So now AI buzzword everywhere. It's all over now, right? So Power BI has the AI part of it that helps us to also make sense out of our data. So we have the quick insights, we have the Q&A, where you just ask questions, like you're asking, you know how you ask me questions, like you're asking a human being. You can do that with your Power BI and it gives you the answer. Then we have the advanced data modeling. So data modeling, we will do part of it, which is the ETL part of it, but then we might not be able to cover the DAX, but just in a very simple term, DAX is what we call the data analysis expression, and it's a language that Power BI uses for calculations, right? So behind the scene, you know how you do your drag and drop. At the back end, we actually have codes that are going on that is actually telling Power BI certain things. That is just a Power BI code language that we use in Power BI, and it's very helpful whenever we're doing modeling. Modeling, I'll just leave it there when we get to that place. Then it will help. And then also, while using your Power BI, which is the service now, because the Power BI service the Power BI service allows us to collaborate with people all over. So it doesn't matter where you are. If we're in the same company, if you're in Nigeria, if you're in the UK, if you're in the US, as long as we're working in the same company, you can see what I'm doing real time. We can work together, right? And the beautiful thing is that when you see the row level security, it means that it is secured. Our data is secure because it's one thing to be out in the cloud, in the service, whatever. But then again, how secured is our data? Power BI gives you that assurance that your data is secured. And not just that, it kind of gives different levels of privilege to people that can have different access level to different data or reports. So let's say in your company management, they have some reports that they just don't want every other person seeing, especially those reports that kind of tells us the state of our company. You know, those are very sensitive data that you don't even want your competitors to see. Now, some people would be privileged to see those reports, right? So Power BI has that capability to give people access and deny people certain access levels. And then finally, we have the mobiles and embedded analytics. So you can always embed your Power BI and reports into different apps that you have, especially the M365 apps. You'll find out that whenever it has to do with your analytics, that's where you start calling Power BI. So that's it for that. Now, we're going to look at different key terms for Power BI. So these are the terms you will see almost now and then, or in fact, those are like the building blocks for Power BI, right? The first is the visualizations. So the same name, another name for it is visuals, right? Visuals are just those graphs that you've seen. In fact, I'm going to ask a question now. Can you type? I'm looking at the charts. Any type of visual that you know, any type of graph that you know. I'm sure you people have seen different types of graphs, maybe your workplace, just anywhere. Any type of graph that you know, can you type? Let's just say. I want to be sure that we are all following as well, not just speaking to line chart. Awesome. That's great. Comfort. Line chart, that's one of it. Bar chart, yes. Bar chart. Yeah, that's very common. Pie chart. Okay, we're following. Histogram, yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. We're following. So you see all these charts that you are naming, those are the different visuals we're going to be using. And whenever you hear visuals, visualizations, we're referring to these graphs, these charts. Dashboard. Dashboard is just a single page, a single screen that gives like key matrices. Let me explain. Sometimes when you walk into a company, you might even see they may have it in a very pronounced place where maybe they want all the people to know, okay, this is what is happening. So all eyes on the target, so that if we ever see any metric that is going below our standard point, we start to flag it immediately. We start to understand what's happening. That's what a dashboard does. That's just the dash. That is what a dashboard is. It gives us these different visuals that we have mentioned, but most times it targets just the key ones that we want to track and make sure that we're always on point. That's a dashboard. Now, a report, because that sometimes people get confused with dashboard and report. Reports is also a collection of visuals. The difference between a dashboard and report is that a dashboard is just a one screen. Reports, you can have different pages. So let's say if you come to an organization, they have different departments. They have the HR, they have the IT, they have the sales, they have, just name it, right? Operations. We might have different reports for each of these departments. So we might have a report for HR where they'll be tracking maybe the number of employees, attrition rate, stuff like that. When it comes to sales, we might have different, we might have a report that speaks to the different products that we've sold, how well they're performing, the people that are making more sales, So reports can be as many as you want. Now, the beautiful thing is that a dashboard might be where we can now track individual. So we might go to sales reports and pick out one key thing we feel like we need to track for salespeople, put it in our dashboard, do the same for HR, do the same for IT, do the same for any other thing, right? So that's the difference between dashboard reports. Okay, the other thing is data set. Data set, I've been saying data set since we started. Data set simply means data. It could be a table that has tables, rows, and columns. Now we have different types of data. Data is just everywhere, flying up and down. You can even, sound is a data, just anything you can think of. But the beautiful thing is that when we're dealing with Power BI, we want it to be in a table form where you have your rows and columns. So even if you have an unstructured data, right? That's where you start to look at the data engineering part of it, where we want to structure it to some extent and get it structured before we can pull it into Power BI and begin to do analysis. So, but anything that has to do with data, and it can be located anywhere, is what we call data set. I have an issue in this my screen, but that's okay. I think the other one should be a tile. I missed that. I just don't know what happened there. The other building block is a tile. A tile is simply a visual in your dashboard. So you know how I said you pick up your reports, you pick up a visual from each report, depending on the key ones that you are interested in. That's what a tile is, right? Just a small business. So whenever you hear tile, T-I-L-E, I will correct this and make sure that we say the right thing. And then finally, the DAX that I talked about before, that's the Power BI language that is used for data modeling, aggregations, and calculated fields. All right, so moving on. We have the Power BI components, right? Or you can say parts of Power BI. Power BI Desktop, which is basically what we're going to be using if not 100% of the time in this class. It's a Microsoft application software that you have on your desktop. I want to believe that we all already have that on our system. If we do not have it, please make sure that by the end of today, before the next class, that you have it, because we're going to be doing practicals. It's not just, I'm just doing an intro. That's why I'm taking my time just to explain the little things that we need to know. And that's where what you're going to be installing on your laptop is your Power BI desktop. Okay? And then That's what we use to build all our visuals, do our analysis, do our cleaning, our transformations, and come up with reports, right? Now we have the Power BI service. The Power BI service, just like the name, is a software as a service. It's on the cloud, right? So when we're done building or we're building on our desktop, whenever we want to start collaborating with other people, we need to publish it into our Power BI service. And the essence of doing that is that wherever you're located, I can just log in and see what you have done. Your Power BI desktop, whatever you've done that stays on your desktop, unless you share it via other sources, maybe you extract it as a PDF or whatever and share with others, we cannot see what you have done or you present it for us. But if you want other people to see what you have done, even if they're on the go, that's when Power BI service comes into play. Likewise, the mobile app. We all know our apps on our phones, right? That's how we have the Power BI app. And it simply helps with, if, let's say, a person, a top management, or just anybody that needs to track certain things and they're on the go. Sometimes it may not always be with your laptop, right? Power BI mobile can help you say, oh, okay, this is what is happening, right? And then you say that. Power BI Gateway is, how we have the on-premises and things are moving to Power BI. Remember when I talked about being able to see what is happening real time? Power BI Gateway is just all about the connection between your on-prem and your cloud. That's what that does for us. The server that you see there is more like a self-hosted report. So it's so for some organizations, I know that most organizations are still not comfortable with going to the cloud. Some are even scaling down backwards. It all depends. So, but what works for your company? We still have the Power BI report server that can help you still host to everything, just like if you were on the cloud. And then finally, we have the Power BI embedded. That's the Power BI visuals that you have in your customer application. So certain applications, as long as you can connect to you have an API, connect via API. That's why I said Power BI has ability to connect to anything, and then you can have your Power BI embedded in different applications that you want. Now, like I said, for majority of our time here, if not, of course, we're going to introduce you to the Power BI service, but I'm not sure you're going to use the Power BI service as such, and that's because of the license, right? Power BI desktop is free, so that's okay. But once you're able to learn this, the same thing that you can do on your desktop, you can do it on the service. There's not much difference, to be honest. Now, with our Power BI desktop, what we intend to achieve is how we can connect to data. So with Power BI desktop, we can connect to where your data, wherever it's located. When we connect to it, we want to be able to clean it up. We want to be able to transform it, shape it so that it's good to go, right? And then when we're done with that, we can start bringing out charts, graphs that you can make sense out of it and start telling people, oh, this is what is happening based on this graph. Because the beautiful thing about graph is that, when you're looking at a data set and you see 1,000 rows, your eye is just going like this, like what's happening here? But with graphs, you begin to see that it starts to make sense that, okay, noted. Thank you, Ellen. Okay, so with charts, you begin to see the relationship. With charts, you begin to see what is happening and understand, like, even without talking, people can see, oh, we are seeing this line chart going like this. Going up, if it's up, that means it's doing well. If it's coming down, something is wrong, like that. And then by the time we start to create it, we start to build reports. And by the time we're done building reports, we share it, we publish it for people to see what we've done. Now, data sources. When I talked about our data sets, they are always located somewhere. You have to access data from somewhere. The most common that we know would be our files. So when you talk about Excel, you talk about text, you talk about CSV, you talk about XML, JSON, SharePoint folders. Those are like very common ones. Another common one is the database. You have different types of database. We have that connection for us to source our data from. Power Platform, which is what we're doing now. It's Power BI is just a part of it. We also have data sources located in different places. We can still connect to them. We have the Azure, we have the online services, and we have others. Others would include the web. So you have a data set that you're seeing online web. I remember during COVID, we had a lot of, you know how they were always tracking different countries and everything. A lot of people were always assessing that to make sense out of it. There is always something online. Maybe you are tracking, you see something, you can still connect to it and still make sense out of it and start to build your reports. So that's it for the data sources. And then we have the data storage modes. Okay, I purposely put this assignment so that I don't forget it. So as long as you're in this class, because we want us to follow through, it's not just coming to class. And I know you already know that there's a project part of it, but also for every class, is depending as the spirit leads, you might get an assignment. Now, the aim of the assignment is just to help us to learn better, because I might just come here and under 1 hour, I'm already blabbing through and then just trying to do a summary. But sometimes when you sit down and then you look into it yourself, you get details that were not even said in the class. So for our assignments that is due by next week, I will talk about this, but I want you to do your own research on this. When we talk about the storage modes, I want you to do your own research and understand what they mean by the imports, the direct query, and the DOA. But just for the interest of this class, I'm just going to explain briefly what it means. Import. Remember I said we have different data sources, right? Now we can have a CSV. Okay, let me even use an Excel. All of us know what an Excel file is. Excel in Microsoft Power BI. Sorry, Excel in Microsoft is the Excel that you know, the normal Excel that you know, that has tables and rows, and that has columns and rows, right? So let's say we even populate all the people in this class. In fact, the forms that we filled out so that we can join this class. Remember that whenever you're filling a form, right, what is happening at the back end, there's something collecting those data that you're putting. So they ask you, what's your name? What track would you like to join? All those questions. There's something collecting at the back end. Most times it will be an Excel. In fact, for Microsoft, I think it's an Excel. By the time you're done filling the form, they look at it, it comes out as an Excel. That is data for us to work with. If we even want to start analyzing, we can just put that data into our Power BI, and then we begin to look at, okay, how many people registered for Power BI, Power Automate, AI, 365, just like that. And we can even begin to look at other factors depending on what we're looking at, right? Now, imports. Just like I said, we connect to an Excel. Now, when we take that Excel, we can get our Power BI, connect to to the Excel, and it imports all the data into our Power BI. What happens is when we do that connection, what is happening at that point is that we are taking a copy of everything we have in that Excel into our Power BI. So now on our Power BI desktop or whatever, we have that data set there, 100%. And it's always advisable, most times, depending on the situation. So it would always depend on your situation. We can have everything moved. So when you're dealing with static data, it's best to always use Power BI, right? And import everything into Power BI so that you have a copy on your desktop, or even when you publish it. Whenever you're publishing a report, you publish it with both the data sets. But direct query, the difference between import and direct query now, I'm even giving the answer, but it's okay because there are other things you need to know about it. For direct query, it means I'm not going to pull all the copy of what I'm copying into my data, into my desktop, my Power BI desktop. What I'm simply going to be doing is that, let's say, for instance, I have my data set in my database, right? And this database on maybe it's every now and then we're updating it, right? And it's huge. It's huge. I mean, if you are talking about billions of data, that's too much for our Power BI storage to handle, right? So it's always best to leave it there and then use a direct query connection to access that data. That's the difference between the two. Import copies everything you have and have a copy on your desktop. While direct query looks at the data source and kind of does our analysis based on the data source that it's looking at. Dual, just like the name, combination of the two. So it depends on the circumstance. You combine both your import and direct query to achieve your goal. Don't forget to do this assignment. It's very important because if you understand the concept, it will really help you to understand how things work, especially when you're doing your connections. Okay. Now, I am jumping onto Power Query. Power Query. Power Query, we're going to be looking at that next week. I'm only doing an introduction. Power Query simply means it's okay. I'm going to read this out here. It's a tool or channel for connecting, transforming, and combining data. It's also known as data extraction and transformation engine. So most times you always see ETL. ETL, I'm sure a lot of us have come along across it. ETL or ELT, depending on the context it's used. ETL simply means extraction. You're going to look at it. I'm just doing an intro. Extraction, transformation, loading. Now, Power Query plays very important role in ETL process. So most times when we get a data set, especially a data set that you don't even know, you don't have full information. Maybe you've been called in, oh, please, we have this data set and we need to analyze it. We need to understand what's happening with our data sets. Now, what you do whenever you have that, besides having an understanding of what the data set is all about, you also want to do your investigations. You also want to look at what your data set looks like. Most times, you'll find out that your data set is not good to go. And when I say it's not good to go, it means it's not clean enough for you to start analyzing because, and this is a very important step that you need to take whenever you're doing your data analysis. When you have a data set and you just jump on it and start analyzing it, the probability you might not get the real thing that is happening there if you do not do your cleaning and transformation is very high. So you always need to, first of all, take a look at the data set and try to clean up what is not supposed to be there and start to do some transformation so that at the end of the day, you have it, you've shaped it enough that, okay, I'm good to go. I can use this. So that even if you are seeing a particular number going too high, it's okay. Because sometimes you might have outliers that can even distort your data set and even the insights you'll be getting from it. So that's the essence of doing your cleaning and transformation. And that's where Power Query comes into play. Power Query will help us bring in all these data sets from wherever source they are located. And then you start to do all those cleaning. Once you are convinced, you are okay that, okay, this is good to go, then you can go ahead and load it into Power BI and start to use it. And that's it. Now in Power Query, there are a lot of things we do. I just listed a few. We do the copy. We do the remove other columns. Remove other columns, remove some columns. So let's say you bring in a data set that has, let's say 50 rows. But most times, before you even start solving a problem, remember, you need to know why you want to do anything you want to do, right? So you might find out that some data set that they might bring in, some rows might not be necessary. Or better say, let me not say some columns, sorry. Some columns might not be necessary, right? You need to remove those columns so that, because the smaller your data set, the better. Don't forget, we're also dealing with instance that the performance might not be so optimal, and you don't want anything that you're doing. One of the key feature that we want to ensure that is that if I ask for this, I'm getting it on the go, right? So these are things you want to look at, trim, replace. These are the things we're going to be doing next week. So don't worry, you'll be fine. And next week, you're going to do a lot of this, and I'm sure you will have a lot of things to play with. So these are the things that you can achieve with Power Query and even much more. Then, oh yeah, we're in the demo. And I think we're still on track for time. We're in the demo, right? I am going to open up my Power BI, and I'm going to walk us through so that we have a feel of what it looks like. If we're going to even bring in a data set into our Power BI, just an intro, nothing much today, just so that you familiarize yourself with it. And also, I know I've already given one assignment. Another assignment I'm going to give is, please, if go online, search for data sets. One is okay. If you can get more than one, that's okay. Search for data sets and start playing with it. I use the word play so that you know that you're playing actually. It's not so that you don't take it as, oh, it's something big. It's not big. It's something you can just play around with. Just do anything. As the more you even start looking at it, start doing something, you find out that okay, you be like, because the beautiful thing about this is that most of these softwares are just user friendly, right? So you just even clicking, you like, oh, this thing does, okay, oh, this is what it does. So I would advise that we all get a data set, everybody, a personal one. That's besides the project. I'm talking about your own journey now. Get a data set, and whatever we've done today, just try to, I know we're not doing much practical, but just try to do something, at least import your data, bring it into Power BI and just look at it, and then that's it. So I will just I'll open up my Power BI, and then we'll try to just look at it, and yeah. Okay. Please tell me, do you see my Power BI screen? Or are you still seeing the slides?
Yes, yes.
You see the Power BI, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so this is what our Power BI desktop looks like. So if you have it on your system, when you open it up, you will see it coming like this. I'm going to do a quick intro. This part of our Power BI desktop, you also see something like this on the Power BI service. It's still the same interface. It's what we call the canvas. Canvas, Canvas. And this is where we do all our visuals, like you drag and drop, make, come up with reports and stuff like that. When I talked about reports and having different pages, if you look here, you can see page 1. This could be for one report. So the way I gave an example for different departments and different reports. This could be a page for HR. Click on this, you have another report. So by the time you start doing your report, you'll find out that you have page 1, page 2, page 3. So like I said, you can have different number pages of reports, and that's fine, right? And you create your reports, and that's fine. Now let's go over to this side of our data set of our Power BI interface. If you look at this first icon here, it says the report view, which is the view we're looking at right now. And that's where you do your reports. Remember, that's what I said. You do your reports here. If you look at this second icon, it says the table view. For some, you might be seeing data view, maybe especially when you go on YouTube for videos. It used to be called data view, if I remember very well. So that's still the same thing. Power BI, Microsoft, they're always kind of doing like an upgrade on certain things, so that's fine. So if I click on it now, if I have a data set, maybe I should have even imported a data set before coming here. Yes, let's do that. I'll come back to this so that you can understand what I'm saying. So back to what I said. Remember, I told you with our Power BI, we can get different data sources. Now, if you look at this icon here, it says get data. Very explanatory, it's talking to you. It says, go get your data. And then if I click on this icon that is pointing down, you will see that we have different data sources. We have the Excel, Power BI, data flows, Dataverse, SQL, so many of them. In fact, if I click on this, more, where are you? These are the different data sources we have. So don't worry, wherever you have your data located, we've got you covered. That's what Microsoft is telling us. So you choose which of them that you want to select and then try to connect to it. So for the sake of this class, okay, before I do this, I'll show you this part. Also, notice that on this side of our Power BI interface, we have the Excel. This is still the same get data source that we see. One lake, all these are already in what we already looked at. And then if you always do a particular, let's say you always work with a particular database, you'll see that you have recent sources. You have all the sources that you have accessed recently. So you have it there. And then we have the transform, the queries. This transform has to do with what I talked about that we're also going to be looking at next week, which is where we start to prepare our data. Then the SAT calculation, these are other things. And then you see your Copilot as well. Remember, Copilot is just an AI feature, also AI app that we also use, very helpful now, just like ChatGPT and the rest. So that's it. I will try to bring in our data set, then I'll go ahead and talk about the other parts before we close for the day. So get data. I want to bring in a data set. I already know it's an Excel, so I'm telling you beforehand. It's an Excel data set that I want to bring in. Otherwise, if I have any other data source that I want to bring in, let's say you have your data in your Dataverse, you can click on this. Let's say you want to bring it from the web, you can click on this. So depending on where it is, you find. So for Excel, I'm going to click on this. And then it's going to open up and then it's going to ask me where is it? So I'm going to just go and locate it where it is. And this is the data set that I want to bring in, right? So I'm going to click on this and click on open. And it's trying to bring it into Power BI. Let's see what happens. Just give it some time and then we'll continue. Okay. Well, while it's doing this, it's still processing. If you see the dots, it's still trying to work on it. So this that you see here is what we call the navigator pane, right? The navigator pane just helps us to preview our data sets before we can pull it in. So sometimes you might find out that the source where you're connecting to, you have different data sets there, and you don't want to use all of them. Maybe you're even just looking for just one out of all those data sets. This navigator pane will help us achieve that because you're going to preview what the data set like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, besides whether you have the names or not. So let's say right now, remember when I went to pull this, I saw only one Excel sheet or Excel spreadsheet, right? Workbook actually. And now I'm seeing table 1, table 2 sales, right? I want to see what's in this table 1. Let's say order ID, order dates, okay. And then I'm scrolling down, okay, all right. What's in table 2? Channel. I believe this channel should be a part of this. So maybe the way the data set was populated, they kind of had 2 tables in one sheet. So that's why it's bringing it out like this. And then we have the sales, which is actually what I know we were trying to bring in. But let's see. The order ID, when I scroll through, Yeah, so this channel that is on my table 2 and every other thing is on my table 1. So this is what I actually want. So I'm not going to bring in this too because it's not like a full, assuming we didn't have this and we needed this too, then we can bring in the 2 of them, that's okay. But this has this too, so I don't need to bring it in. So what I'll do, I'll just click on this. And remember I talked about load, transform, I talked about ETL, extraction, transform, load. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to extract. I can decide to go ahead and load. But recall, I said it's always good. In fact, best practice, take a good look at the data first. Make sure it's okay. Okay means there is nothing extra. It's well cleaned, well transformed, and it's good to go. And for us to do that, that's where this transform data comes into play. Once I click on transform data, it's going to take us out of Power BI and take us to Power Query that we talked about. Watch what will happen. So if I click on transform data, let's just give it some time. Okay, it's opened up on another screen. Just confirm if you see the Power Query platform interface. Do you see my Power Query?
Yes.
Oh yeah, thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so now this is what our Power Query looks like. This is what our Power Query looks like. This is our data set. Remember, we had order ID. If I scroll down, the last I should expect to see is channel. So now, when you're on Power Query, your duty is now to even start looking at your data set. Remember, you have no idea what this data set is all about. Maybe they just give it to you. Oh, we know that you are the experts. We just want you to help us. Highest, maybe they give you your metadata and then that's it. And they're telling you, we want this, we want it. You need to make sense out of it. Now, this is the time to make sense out of it. If you start looking at this column, oh, what's this talking about? Order ID. So perhaps this is a sales company. This is a company that makes sales, right? And for every order, it's let's even say people that are selling what would I call now? What do I call now? It's anything that are selling phones, right? And then anybody that places an order, the person has an ID, right? So that could be what this is speaking to. And then the order date, so the date that was ordered, to unit cost, to price, quantity, cost of sales, sales profits, promotion time. Yeah. So seems like they were doing promotion. So some seasons, seems like they did seasonal discounts. Yeah. So if we look at this now, seasonal discount, they had a promotion here, and it was a New Year promotion. So probably during New Year they had like a sales and Easter as well. These are the different products that they have. So these are more like tech. Oh yeah. So they have headphones, they have players, more like electronic devices. And then the manufacturers, the brand name, and so on and so forth. I mean, this is just when you start to look at your data set critically just to understand what's happening here. And that's one part of it, right? And like I said, next week is when we're going to look at Power Query, the cleaning, the transformation in details. This is just more like an intro. Now, another thing I just wanted to touch here is, if you look at this part that says queries, it simply means the different tables. So if, let's say, we bring in different data sets, you will see it here, right? If you want to do every other thing, you start to do that, but I'm going to leave that till next week. If you look at this down part of it, it says 21 columns. So I want to know this data set that we brought in. Let's just even, well, how many, because I'm scrolling through, there are so many rows, so many columns, I mean. Likewise, even rows, there are so many of them. So if I look at this now, this gives me like an idea of what I'm dealing with. I have 21 columns. So if I look at all these columns, there are 21. And then it says 999 rows. So that means we have over 1,000 rows here. And then if you see this place that says column profiling based on top 1,000 rows, right? It simply means that this information is based on what we have here showing at the moment is just showing us the first 1,000 rows. But then if we wanted to have an idea of what is like to see, tell it, okay, show me the whole data set I imported, then you can click on this and say, instead of column profiling based on top 1,000 rows, you can click on this and then it says column profiling based on entire data sets. So my whole data set, if I click on it, so that by the time I start to do my column profile and any other thing that I want to do, then I can get information on the whole data set. I will just do that and then that'll be it for today so that I don't go too much into what we're going to do next week. So let's say, for instance, I want to take a look at what this column is all about. I'm going to click on this and that's the column profile. Remember, I already told it's based on the entire data set. So it's going to try to populate different statistics of what this column is all about. And from what I can see that in this other ID column, I have 15,000 counts. And in this case, 15,000 rows. So we're dealing with a data set that has 21 columns and 15,000 rows. And then you can also see other statistics. You can see the min max. Min max may not be important here, to be honest, because we're dealing with other ID. Maybe in sales, yeah, that's when it will make sense. And you see the average standard deviation. These are when you're now going further, trying to look at maybe correlation and the rest. And then, okay, another thing I wanted to talk about is the distinct and unique. Distinct means I have numbers occurring, how many times a number occurred. So let's say this 7077. If I have 15,000 here, distinct means how many times a number or a character, or most times it will be a number, occurred. I am seeing 15,000 there. It means all these numbers occurred only once. And it's understandable because this is my order ID, right? So that's why it's like this. But say, for example, if I go to, let me go to my dates, you will see the difference now. If I go to my date, I can see my distance is showing us 1,096, no more 15,000. What it means is that, take for instance, on the 18th of March, 2013, we had so many orders that day. And so when it's counting the orders for that particular day, it's going to count it as one. It's not going to count the different orders that we have. So I don't know if I can see another 18 here, but I'm sure, I am 100% sure that there was other orders placed on this particular date. It's just going to count it once, right? And that's why you have that as this. Unique, I'm coming, Grace, I'll come back to you. Unique means something occurred only once. If you look here, you see that the unique number is showing 0. So that means for every day, there was no day we had only one order. And so that's why we have 0. But if we go back to this other ID, the unique is showing 1 because they all occurred only once. I hope it's not confusing anybody. But yeah, that's what distinct and unique speaks to. So I said, you click on column profiling. How did you get to the unique phrase? What did you, okay, I think I was fast there. Yeah, so I'm going back to my home, but I'm going to remove this and go back to home. Okay, so this is what our data set looked like, right, on our Power Query. And now I just wanted to have an idea what my columns look like, right? What I did is that I went to View, and under View, under the data preview, column profile, right? I clicked on it, and then that's when all these column statistics came up. If you also want to get the column quality, you can click on that, and it tells you, okay, what this means is that there's no error on this column, and likewise, all the rows are filled. We don't have any empty rows. If there's an error, you will see it will start to flag it. In fact, from this bar, if you see this little bar under the order ID, it tells us that the column is valid. If there's an error, it will show us some red, or better still, I think that's black. Black means that we have some empty rows. So I think I answered that question, hopefully. Okay. And then thank you for the section today, ma. Welcome. Please, ma, the DAX expression you talked about, is it like a programming language? It's not programming like that. It's you know how we have Excel, and when you want to use your functions, maybe you want to put into and then use concatenate. So somehow similar, but not. It's a program. It's how will I call it? Program. It's not like the you know how you do this, and it to be honest, it's programming language, but it's not that deep. That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't scare you. So if you don't like coding, don't worry, you're fine, you're covered. The things you are writing are things you can also see how it works, maybe. And it's helpful when you start to do certain calculations that are kind of very robust. Yeah, that's when you start maybe calculate and stuff. I'm not going to go into those, but it's not programming like you think. So yeah, you're covered. You're fine. Don't have anything to worry about. Then, which other question do I have here? I think there is data analysis using Python. There is data analysis using Power BI. Yeah, can I say I don't need to know about data analysis using Python? So it depends. So data analysis is very broad, and there are different tools for it. Yeah, and as well as programming languages for it. You will see where Python, you can use Python. Python on its own has its own features as well. You have the R, you have Excel is also a data analysis tool. You have Power BI. Power BI is just one of them. But Power BI is especially great for data visualization. You have Tableau. There are so many of them. You have Alteryx. Like I said, there are so many of them, right? So it depends on the one that will suit you, that will work for you, right? Depends on what you're trying to achieve. Then, I mean, knowing all of them is fine, but my advice will always be start with one, progress to the next, and then so it's as the need arises will determine what you will use. Can I say I don't need to know about data analysis in Python? What is the benefit if I decide to focus only on Power BI? The benefit if you decide to focus on Power BI is that if you see jobs that require Power BI, then you're fine, you can work with it. But Power BI is also, I would say, more friendly than, I don't want to say it that way, but Power BI it's easier to learn, right? So if you are just starting up your journey, you can start with it. And the truth is that you might just be fine with just that. You might just be fine with just that because there are a lot that Power BI can do. And the beautiful thing about Power BI, because of the way we have our Power Platform and the flexibility, like the interactions for all the different apps we have under there, Power BI is like a big thing. And most organizations use Microsoft, right? And if they have the Microsoft license, they would always want to use what they already have the licenses for, and that's where Power BI and the good thing is, if you're let's say your company is heavy on Power Automation, you can use Power Apps, Power Automate, and still use Power BI to do your analysis. So if you know Power BI, that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot, to be honest. Yeah, formula expressions, exactly. Thanks, Joanne. And okay, I think I've covered the question. This is what. Oh, thank you, everyone. Please, just download Power BI on our phone. So you can only download the Power BI mobile app on your phone, not the desktop. That's why it has the name. Power BI mobile app, yes, that one you can have it on your phone. And not necessarily for you to, how do I put it? The best place to build your reports and do whatever you want to do would be on your desktop or on the service. The mobile app is more like just to see what's happening, more like to track something when you're on the go, right? So yeah. So if your question is must you download it on your laptop for you? Yes, you must. And can Power BI do all that Python can do in data analysis? Okay, so for the interest of this class, we are concentrating on Power BI, right? And we're going to try to get you as much as possible that you can use Power BI to do your data analysis, right? Python, we are not talking about Python, but just because you asked that question, Python is also robust in its own ways. It has so many features, that you can use it for, and it has different libraries, and each library has something it's speaking to. So, yeah, if you want to learn Python, for sure, go for it, right? And it's something also you can, but in the interest of what we are covering for this class, we're just concentrating on Power BI. So having an idea already, having a knowledge of both Power BI and Python, you're fine. You'll be good. It's good. In fact, if you're in data analysis, it's always good to learn another tool. Once you learn this, go to the next tool. Because it depends. It depends on, you don't know where you're going to find yourself. You might go to an organization and they're heavy on a particular tool. So yeah, that's it. Another question. Why is Power BI available for iPhone but not for MacBook? That's a very interesting question. So for some reasons, Power BI doesn't really work well with MacBooks. That's why whenever we go on our classes, we always advise, please bring your Windows. It's more compatible with it. As at now, they still do not have an application that works with the MacBook without issues. So yeah. I think we have, if you use Windows, go to, okay. Okay, so now how do we download Power BI Desktop? Okay, let's see. Mm. Maybe I should have put that link. Okay, another way, we will share the link for that, but I'm just going to type it because it's there. Microsoft Power BI. So there are different ways you can download it from the Microsoft, what do you call it now? Microsoft, the word is not coming to my head. Oh my God. But otherwise, you can go online and Microsoft Power BI download. Microsoft have, the word is not coming to my head, where you can download the different apps that they have.
Microsoft Store.
Thank you.
Store.
Microsoft Store. Yeah,
The store,
exactly.
the store.
Yeah, that's it. So if you have that, you can download it from their store, or otherwise download Power BI. Yeah, that's it. And then you can go ahead and download this. It's not difficult, to be honest. It's not difficult. It's very straightforward. It's quite straightforward, to be honest. It's not a big thing. Then what else? Let me finish up my slides, and then if you have any other question, thank you. Yep, thank you so much. It's good to have all of you on this call. And then for resources, we have Microsoft Lens. So I would advise, while we're on this journey, please, besides the class, please can you mute your mic if you are on mute? While this class is going on, please, if you can take out some time and go to Microsoft Learn and start to read on the different modules that they have for Power BI, that will also help you get a full understanding of what we're talking about. Also, we do have the Power BI site. You can also make use of this. We have documentations where you can also see how certain things, this is beyond, even beyond this class, you can always use that as your reference point, right? And also there's a community of Power BI users. So most times when you go in the community, whenever there is an issue, you're encountering an issue, you can always put it there and there is always somebody there to help out. So I will advise us, please, we can also share this on the WhatsApp group, make use of all this. But besides that, yeah, I think that's it for today. And then also I will request that we also help me fill out the survey. This is a survey just to have an understanding of how this class went and then give your feedback. So thank you so much. I don't know if we have more questions that I can cover before we round off for today. I think right now we have 7 minutes to go. And don't forget your, don't forget your assignment, the import directs. When we start next week, hopefully that will be the first thing we would look at before we continue. And get your data sets. Get it, work with it. Just even try to import it. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I have the Power BI app on my system, but I don't know when you open yours. There are some things I'm seeing on yours, but I'm not seeing on mine. So I don't know. Is there a way it can be updated?
Oh, I see what you're talking about. So you're referring to. I'll bring up my screen 1 minute. You're referring to this, right?
The Copilot, the visualization, I couldn't find it on my own. The way it is being programmed on yours like this. Then the Copilot.
We did not finish this class. Thank you for even bringing me back here. We didn't finish this class. I got carried away with the questions because I said I was going to come back here and talk about the, oh my gosh. Apologies, please. Okay, so the Copilot. So what has happened is it depends on when you had your Power BI downloaded, right? Say if you had it downloaded maybe last 2 years, it's like I said, Power BI and Microsoft, they're always doing like an update. The beautiful thing about downloading your Power BI app from the Microsoft Store is that once there is an update, it will also like automatically update, right? Otherwise, how do you update? I am not sure if you already have the way your own is set up, whether you or do you need to start all over again? That's something I don't have the 100% answer. But if I'm to answer you from the top of my head, if you can download from the store, best. Otherwise, I would say download the app again, and then you have all these new features that has been added into it. Yeah.
All right, ma. Thank you so much, ma. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for your question. It reminded me that I have not finished my class, and I was thinking I was done. Thank you. Okay, so I was working on my Power Query, and then I didn't finish it. Now, I wanted us to show, because I wanted to don't forget that we were trying to pull in our data into our Power BI. So going back to this, let's even say we are done cleaning. Like I said, we're going to do that next week. Let's even say we are done cleaning and transforming our data. You can go back and then you see how we have close. Close means, or whatever we've done here, please don't make any changes, just close it and then take me back to Power BI. Apply means if I've made any changes here, apply those changes and then that's it. Close and apply means apply all the changes and close by Power Query. So most times we always use this option, apply and then close. And then it takes us back to Power BI, right? And then you see it's loaded now. So this will be the L that I talked about, the loading part in our ETL. To take some time, depending on the size of your data, and then just give it some time. But I know we'll meet up with our time. Anyway, this class is 1 hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours. So We are still okay. We're still okay. So now we have our data set in our Power BI. It's done bringing it in. If you look on this side of my screen, this is labeled as the data. That's where you have your data sets when you pull it into Power BI. And then if I click on this, it's going to expand this, and then it's going to show me the different columns we have under our sales table, right? Remember, we had all this. If you remember the other ID that we talked about, these are all the columns, right? Now, on this part of our screen, you have the visualizations. Okay, hold on. Emmanuel, did you say you don't see your visualizations? Because that's that if you don't see it, it's strange. You don't see
No,
that?
I can see my visualization, but it's not as arranged and on your canvas the way it is on mine. So I think mine is just for me to update it so I can have it just the way it is on your
Okay.
screen.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So we have the visual, and this is what houses all the visuals that we use for our reports. So if I start scrolling through, the beautiful thing is that once you put your mouse on it, it will tell you the type of visual that you have. So you can see as I'm putting my mouse on it, it's showing me 100% stack column charts, scatter charts. This is a map. This is a slicer. This is a card. So in the course of our learning, we will use not all, but most of them to do our visuals, and then you begin to appreciate them. And then also, we also have this pane for filters. So sometimes you might be working on a report and you need to filter down, maybe just on the page. And remember, like I said, we have different pages. So you might want to filter on all the pages. That's where this gets very useful. And then coming back to this part of that I had to pause, remember I told you this is the report view, and then we have the table view. If I click on it now, you will see that our data set is now showing here. So for instance, for any reason, you are working on your data set and then you want to look like, oh, what does our data set look like? Oh, do we have this here? You can see that in your Power BI. All you need to do is to go to your table view. And then after that, you have the model view. So model view is where you do your modeling. And this is even more helpful when you have different data sources. You need, let's say you have a data source in Excel, another one in database, another one in Dataverse, just scattered all over. The beautiful thing about Power BI is that it can pull all of them, provided they have a relationship. And then on this modeling view is where you now start to do the kind of relation, so that if I'm looking at this data set, if I'm looking at this table, I can, from here, make a relationship to another data set that has something in common with it. That's what our modeling does. Now the DAX, remember I talked about DAX, this is for, so anytime you are doing something on your Power BI, there's something going behind it. So if you are good with writing DAX, this will be your pain for it. And then the TMDL is more or less like coding. I see, you see this part. I'm going to be honest, I haven't even used it. Not that I have not used it. And this is because this is the new feature that was added just this year. I think sometime in February. I haven't had time to explore it, but I hear it's very good, especially when it has to do with coding and everything, but I haven't explored it. And it's okay if you don't have time, just take it easy, right? You'll get there. But even with just 1, 2, 3, we are good to go. So I think that's it for us for today. Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel, once again for bringing me back. So bye.
Thank you, Ma. We would like
Yeah,
to get the recordings for today's class too.
yes, you people have it. Ishmael, you have a question? I'm sorry if I did not pronounce that name very well. Do you have a question? Okay. I think that's it for today. Please don't forget to sign the attendance. I know Madam Franca has put it on our charts. And also help me fill out the survey. It's also very important. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, so this is what also kind of helps us with our feedback. Oh yes, your mic is off. Okay, can you type your question on the chat? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I see your thank yous. I am glad that you enjoyed the class. I'll wait for your question and then we'll call it a day.